Aloha and welcome to the Embodied Healing Self podcast with your host, jenmons. Each week, join me for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around embodied healing and awakening to your soul's purpose. Thank you for listening in. Aloha, my friends and family. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. I'm so happy to be here with you again today. We are in the energy of prosperity for the whole month of March. It was the reflection, the intention that came through in our new moon ceremony. I'm offering the pilot program for the prosperity course this month for the first time ever. It's a 10-week course where we dive into our origin story, our generational beliefs and trauma around specifically money, but also to receiving, and this idea that we have to, quote, prove our worth, or all the stories that come up around that. We start to rewrite empowering beliefs. We align to the energy and the frequency and the energetics of money and prosperity, giving and receiving, gratitude, thriving, living with intention, and allowing the miracle to unfold, creating a legacy for ourselves and our family. And so I've been really excited to talk about this because one of the shifts that's been happening over the years in my coaching business is that I'm attracting the types of women that I generally work with are, I should say, former or recovering. I like to be very mindful of my words, but until now, they really believed that their certifications and their hard work and it was their identity. They tend to work really hard and still felt really unfulfilled, and we're just tired of living in the overwhelm and really wanted to own their gifts and just create something from their passion, either on the side or step into it full time. Just something that brings them joy. It could have, for some women, it's even been just creating a nonprofit event. For others, it's just been collaborating in their communities, creating women's circles, creating retreats, or creating a full-on program to just share with others based on what they're passionate about. And so that's what I want to speak to today is, if you listen to last week's episode, we talked about the energy of prosperity, what it is, what it isn't, and how it's all of our birthright to live in that energy. And remember that when we began the conversation, we took a deep breath so that we were willing to receive the download coming to us. So we're going to do that again right now. So just joining me and taking a nice, slow, deep breath in. Bring your shoulders up to your ears, and then exhale to release. See if you feel the body open up a little bit. We're going to breathe in and out of the belly, so the belly expands on the inhale. Take a nice deep breath in. And then exhale, relaxing on the exhale. You know, as I did that breath, something just came to me about the word trust. It's a word I use a lot, and I know that it's a word that many of you struggle with, which is why I talk about it so much. Every time we take an inhale, we trust that we're gonna be able to breathe. And every time we exhale, it's like we're just allowing ourselves to just relax. We can just let go with that exhale. And trust is the foundation for prosperity. And today, what I want to invite you in to talk about is you can allow your passion to create prosperity in your life. So if you're new to this conversation, episode 85 in 2021, I offered prosperity consciousness and a prosperity prayer. Little did I know that 2021 would be one of the most challenging years financially because of a personal, journey that I was on with an ex-business partner. And I also realized that the reason I had to go through that was to understand the consciousness of scarcity and to remember and get clear on my big why, my passion, what I'm passionate about and here to do. So I'm so grateful for that experience, because those are the moments that bring really, really bright clarity. Little did I know that that was bringing me prosperity in the future financially by helping me bring clarity even more on my purpose, by letting go of the things that don't serve me, in the energy of prosperity, which is thriving, sustainable, it's health, wealth, and love and abundance, financial freedom, it's trust. And so here I stand a year later, really understanding a deeper level of prosperity than I did when I wrote that prayer a year ago. And then last week we covered what it is, what it isn't. So I invite you to go back and listen. It's a little bit of a longer episode. It's 50 minutes. So carve out some time, because prosperity consciousness knows that the measurement of time only exists because man created it and chooses to make time and to live intentionally and make time for the things that matter most. So if this conversation is important to you, go ahead and listen. If you have other teachers or teachings that you've learned about this and you'd like to share them with me, of course I'd love to learn. I've studied the idea of abundance and prosperity and money mindset on my own journey since 2018, and felt like it was something that I always kind of naturally embodied, because I embody trust, and had a couple of challenging experiences that helped me to understand people who are feeling scarce and lack of trust, and just to have compassion for that part of me that experienced it, for you as you experienced it. But what I want to open you up with today is the belief that you can do anything. And whatever it is that lights you up, that excites you, that's part of your purpose, and I'm going to invite you to follow that. I'm going to strongly encourage you to be curious about it. And when I say purpose, understand that I believe we are our purpose. It's not aligning to a purpose, it's aligning in purpose. Things that excite us, it's part of us, our unique energetic blueprint. Just this past weekend, I was at a dance competition in Savannah with my daughter. That's her passion. And at the same time, there was a gun show and an animation show. It was hilarious. I'm looking around thinking, wow, like there's 3 different types of people in this convention center right now, each deeply passionate about like that thing. And no one's to say if it's right or wrong, but how interesting. All the different things that people are passionate about and the things that we do to make time for that. Or maybe you're not making time for it and it's time to make time for it. What are the things in your life that light you up? When we welcomed the women into our North Star Collective, scarcity was a theme that was showing up. It's been a huge theme in coaching for, I don't know, probably a year or two. Just, I think during the pandemic, scarcity usually equals lack of trust. And a couple of amazing things happened right away. I mentioned to you before the woman who received a financial bonus as soon as she said yes. And then the other one who really desires to teach yoga was just given like 8 new classes to teach, like all in the same week. So when we get super clear on what we want and we say yes and we allow ourselves to receive, then the miracle begins to unfold. And the more that we practice to be grateful for that, the more that it just keeps coming. And I know that some of you are in a place right now where maybe you just can't see that that's possible. I've been there. I know. I've literally felt moments of being abandoned by God. Not many, but I've had them. And being like one of those WTF moments, like, hello, this isn't what we agreed on. So I don't want to say this like it's easy, because it's not. Because prosperity is growth, and growth means you're willing, that you have the courage to find the things that are keeping you, that are blocking you. Because the only way to get through that is through it, not around it, not over it, not projecting it, blaming it on somebody else, but through it. So a couple questions I want to ask you. You're probably wondering, well, what is my passion? What am I passionate about? And what do you mean prosperity anyways? Well, you answer that question by first answering the question, what does prosperity mean to you? Hopefully you listened to the episode last week, but I will share with you, just as a reminder, what we talked about is that prosperity is your birthright. It's a creative life force energy that all of us were created from. It's limitless. It's a cycle of giving and receiving, capital R, mostly about receiving, because the energy of the universe, God's energy, God's love is completely abundant, and there's so much there that we're not willing to receive. So it's being willing to receive. And prosperity is the energy of thriving in health, money, and love. It's joy, it's gratitude, it's intention, it's freedom, it's flow. And the bowl that holds all of these is trust. When we trust that there's enough, when we trust that we are enough, that it's our birthright, we trust that there is enough because we see the creative life force energy in the earth. When we trust enough to give, knowing that we will receive, in maybe not in the way that you think, but maybe just in realizing that it is in the giving that you do receive, if that is your specific need. Maybe you're over giving and not allowing yourself to receive. It's being intentional and grateful. It's trusting in the flow of life. It is not competition. It is not scarcity. It is not lack of trust. It is not just money or success. It is not short term. It is not greedy. It's not unauthentic, and it is not in the energy of overwhelm. Overwhelm comes from a place of scarcity. There's not enough, so I have to do more. That's most of the women I work with, I think. I'm laughing lovingly because that I've been there, and it's a practice for me as well. But it's like just simplifying and just doing the thing that matters the most and aligning to that is actually pure prosperity. So now that we know what prosperity is and isn't, and to go deeper on that, listen to last week's episode. What's your passion? Your passion is a combination of things. It's what lights you up, what brings you joy. So you can just start by if you have a notebook and a pen, just start writing this down. Like, what am I passionate about? What lights me up? What have the people in my life reflected back to me that I'm good at? So I love to do this exercise where you share with me your values. Like, what are your 5 values that you live in alignment to or want to live in alignment to? Could be health, travel, connection, prosperity, transformation, nutrition. Could be anything. Music, dance, surfing. Those are a couple of ones in my family. So what are your values? And this is a whole nother episode, really unraveling, like, how am I showing up in my values? Am I truly living in alignment to them, or am I not? Because when you are, you will likely find more fulfillment and be closer to that frequency of prosperity. But then there's an invitation to find 5 closest people to you, or maybe like a childhood friend, a husband, a current friend, a child, a teacher. Just 5 different people, and ask them what 5 words describe you. And notice if they align with your values. So, in other words, How am I showing up in the world based on how I say I want to? Like, do people describe you as genuine and authentic if that's one of your values? Loyal, trustworthy, funny, passionate? Are you being described in the way that you want to? I'm just noticing. And then after you go through that process of understanding alignment, then next I want you to make a list of all your skills. Like, just, people have the craziest skills. Like, you would not. Okay, so I played the flute, not me, but so you played the flute in your first chair in band, or you're really good at creating financial spreadsheets, or gosh, a couple of mine would be like, I learned CAD key architecture in college. I was a certified firefighter. I can navigate by the stars. I have some crazy weird skills, I know, because of my college experience. I can weld. So just making a list of like skills that you have. Maybe you grew up on a farm and you can weld. One of my colleagues shared that with me, and I was like, oh, I can weld too. And she grew up on a farm, so super cool. Maybe it's making jewelry. Maybe it's cooking, baking, writing, creative writing, dancing. You don't have to be a dancer to have, to dance, but just like all the skills. Actually, that might be more talents, but talents are a little bit different, but just like all the skills that you have, the things that you can do so easily, you don't even have to think about it. And then make a list of your talents. What are the things that you put in a little bit of extra effort that you really loved and enjoyed doing that became your talents? So maybe that's more like playing the flute, right? Or sewing, or baking, or surfing, or dancing, or soccer, baseball, art, gardening. Like, gardening's not easy for everybody, even people who love it. So what are your talents? The thing that is kind of like a skill, but you put a little bit more effort into it, and then it's really giving back to you. Like, it's a little bit of a different energy. It's like you enjoy it, maybe other people enjoy it, maybe you teach it. Maybe you're not a teacher, but it's something that you teach just by your way of being. And just kind of noticing my skills, my talents, what lights me up, what 5 words, describe me. Like, what are my characteristics that I want to live by, my values that I want to live by. Kind of just combining those lists and just looking for things that you kind of see a pattern. And so one that comes up for me is around connection. My love language is quality time. I love true, authentic, deep connections with people. So I'm not going to be the coach for somebody who's not even remotely willing to be vulnerable, because I'm going to invite you in that space with me, because that's where I see the biggest transformation. That's not for everybody. That's okay. But I love to connect with people, quality over quantity, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm with my family, or I'm kind of more of a friend-on-friend kind of date thing, not like a big girls' night out type of thing, because my love language is quality time. So I love really deep, authentic connections with people. And so when I ask people 5 words that reflect me, I get genuine, loyal. Well, those are related to connection. And so when I think about skills and talents and previous things I've did, well, I create connection through my coaching and retreats by combining my training experiences as a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, a life coach, an energy healer. And then even in my previous sort of life, when I worked corporate, like I was a manager, I was a leader, I used to speak a lot, not about things that I loved, but I was used to speaking in front of hundreds of people. And so that also ties into the retreats that I now hold. So we begin to see that Like everything that we've done has helped create who we are becoming. But if we don't give time and attention to that, then we don't really know. We don't have the clarity. Now make a list of the things that come easy to you and you enjoy. So the skills come easy to you. The talents are the things that you enjoy. And think about the characteristics or the values and make a list of the things that come easy to you and you enjoy, that you don't have to learn. Teaching, speaking, writing, art, physical activity, baking, sewing. That's a hard one for me. That's one that I've not quite picked up. But just thinking about like, what are the things that I'm already good at that are so easy to me? Maybe because the way you were raised, it was like a value in your home. Managing money, budgeting. Budgeting is not scarcity, by the way. It's being intentional with your money. And then you can either write this down and come back to it or create your list right now. But the last question is, what would I do in my life if money weren't an issue? Because the fact that you think that you can't be paid for what you do is the reason you're not creating something. And it doesn't have to be your full-time job. Like I can remember 10 years ago co-creating an event called Healthy Halloween Jacks because I really wanted a Halloween event for my younger kids that would provide an experience for them where there was like not a bunch of crap candy. And so it was just something that I created for the community and handed it over when my kids were no longer participating in Halloween because I really struggled with Halloween because it's like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we poisoning our children with candy? So I created something that was very well received and grew way too quickly, way too fast because a lot of other people valued it as well. But that's just an example of something that I created for the community that I was passionate about. So the reason this is so important is because when we're in that creative energy, it just feels really good because we're not in the what's not working for us anymore. We're in the what can I do? It's a totally different energy. Like, what can I contribute? What can I create? And if you're in survival energy right now, and I know what that's like, and it's very, very difficult. Sometimes we just need to be there. Sometimes we just need to be there, get support, and we're not quite ready yet. But when you are ready, or if you're willing to be curious about it, this can help pull you out of it by focusing on who you're becoming rather than who you've been. And it's not avoiding it, it's working through it and getting clear on the why. Maybe you want to assist women of domestic violence because one of the patterns that keep showing up is your need to be safe because of maybe something that happened with you. So you get the support, you work through it, and then you create that experience. Maybe you create something around breast cancer because your family's been affected by breast cancer. Maybe you create something for cultural diversity because you've been on the receiving end of lack of cultural diversity and the effects of that. Maybe you create a space for women to come together and heal because you've been on the other end of sisterhood wounds or broken relationships between mothers and daughters and friendships and competition and the unhealthy side of that. Maybe you create a networking circle because you haven't found that circle of women that totally aligns with your values. Maybe I have a friend who's creating a networking circle that has a little bit more of a feminine energy, an entrepreneurial energy, so it's less of the hustle and grinding and like proving themselves type of thing and more of a like sharing and collaborating. So there's so many things that you can create based on your experiences and what you didn't have and what you needed and what you're passionate about, what you're naturally good at. You know, maybe your original degree was you were a lawyer or a doctor, or like me, I was an engineer. So I'm really great at actually creating systems and structures that allow people more freedom. Time freedom is the big one for me. Time and financial freedom. And through that process, I learned to heal my relationship with the feminine flow. So I really blend the flow and the strategy together in a totally different way. but just uncovering, like, what am I good at? What lights me up? What brings me joy? What's easy for me? If money were no option, what would I create? And then be curious about, like, what makes you think that you can't create financial freedom in the thing that you love? Like, what is the story around that? Because there's a story. Many of us are breaking. What's happening right now with our generation is, and so I'm in my mid-40s, so let's just say maybe 40s to 60s are really, if you just think back, like, where women were, okay, in their 20s, so 30 years ago, we just didn't have the opportunities that we do now. I literally took my first job as an engineer with a 10% paid less than my male counterparts for the exact same job. Like, we're talking the year 2000. So think about women's rights to vote, for just their choice in birth control, the whole thing. It maybe for younger folks, it seems like it was a long time ago, but I'm telling you, when you get older, it's not. I remember I graduated from a military academy. The first woman ever stepped foot on campus graduated in 1976. I was there less than 20 years later. Well, I've showed up there 27 years ago. I graduated 22 years ago. So it's 20 years seemed like a lot then, but it's already been more than that since I graduated college, which just kind of mind-blowing, right? So think about this exponential path that we're on and really realizing, like, we're in a totally different place now. Thank you to all the women pioneers before us. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. And we get to choose what it looks like. We don't have to prove ourselves anymore. We can be willing to receive on this journey. I think for many of us, ages 40 through 60s, like, we were really in that energy of, like, just hustling and just proving ourselves, proving that we could do it just as good as men could. We deserve to be paid the same. I can remember my competitive surfer daughter, my younger one, who has actually won, she's 13 and she's won pro events, she's won money. When she first started surfing just 3 years ago, just when surfing decided to be the first sport ever to pay men and women equally, yes, first sport, she was like, that makes no sense. Like, why are the men paid more than the women? I said, well, they paid more to be in it. She's like, but not that much more. I mean, she was like 9 and she was getting it. Like, this is so confusing. I'm like, you're right. No, I think she did a contest where, like, the first place man won $2,500, the woman won $500. She's like, that math doesn't make sense. I'm like, I know. And she's like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And we talked about it. Like, no, it doesn't. And it's changing because it doesn't make sense. And that's where we are now. We're claiming that as women, we can do anything and we are valuable. So the only step to take is just to get clear on what you want to do. Because the thing that you want to do that lights you up isn't going to feel like work. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to give you freedom. There's going to be some days where it feels like work. Because there is consistency as a part of it too. The consistent part does definitely create the path towards success in terms of, like, sustainability. So what is the thing that lights you up? What are the things that come easy to you? What would you do if money were no object? What's the story around believing that you can't be paid for it? And how does it align to where you are right now in your life? Right? Because I've got women who are stay-at-home moms. They gave up their job to be with their kids, or some of them are transitioning into going back to work. Some of them are a little bit older. Kids are gone. They're tired of, they've had a career for 20 or 30 years. They're absolutely miserable. They've had a health crisis. They've had a breakdown in marriage. They've had things that have just made them realize none of this was worth it anyway. And, now what am I going to do about it? You're either going to show up differently in your current role. You're going to shift your perception around why it is that you got yourself in that environment in the first place and really understand it, or you're going to choose to create something. You can create something on the side. It can be non-for-profit. It can be for joy. It can be a women's circle. It can be a retreat. You can be paid for the things that you love to do. I brought my family on my retreat in Costa Rica last summer. It was one of the highlights of our year. It was absolutely amazing. Or you can slowly transition, because you want to create something sustainably, into fully creating a business for yourself. We live in a country where that's possible. Both of my girls very much have an entrepreneurial mindset. I was raised in the need for safety. Family, my dad was in the military. I was going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. I chose engineer because I was good at math. And it's like, do the thing that's going to guarantee that you'll be taken care of. And guess what? As I stepped into my engineering job, I literally witnessed people's, like, their 401ks and their company match, like, falling through. It's like they gave 20 years of their life for something that they ended up not getting, because that was around 2001 when everything collapsed. And I was like, I think I'm going to depend on me. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I had a health crisis, was giving, 80 hours a week to my job when I was pregnant, almost died in the hospital. Nobody came to visit me. I was in there for 3 weeks. And I just realized I'm so replaceable, so easily replaceable. Like, what? For $65,000 a year, like, why? Why go back? Like, I almost died. Nobody cared. Because it's all about results. And I slowly began doing the thing that I loved. And I continue to love and continue to support women to just live the life that they want. And so it can be a small thing. It can be a big thing. It can be meal planning every week. It can be walking to the park. It can be walking out to the beach, going on a hike, connecting with your friend. And maybe it evolves into creating something for outside your family. The things that feel the smallest are actually the biggest. The biggest impact we make is to those in our family. And then we get to our community, where we can make an impact, but really the most important thing we do is how we show up in our family, and then in our community, and then in the world. For some of you, you may have a global vision to create impact. I know that I do, but it starts every day at home. The bigger vision will come. I trust that. It'll come at the right time because I have a passion for it. I'm very passionate about supporting women around the world in prenatal health. Specifically, women of color, diversity and culture, empowering young girls. So get clear on, like, what is your bigger vision? What is your bigger why? If you want to go further. And maybe for today, it's just within my family. Maybe it's my community. Maybe it's to support breast cancer survivors, or to support homeless pets, victims of domestic violence. What are the ways? What am I passionate about? And how can I contribute? Do I want to make a difference? Is it just by volunteering, or is it by creating something? And how will I feel when I do it? And then to really allow your passion. You already know what your passion is, but to create prosperity, it's the invitation to trust and to receive. There will be people that will come in your life just at the right time to help you, invite you in, show you the way, give you opportunities when you're open to receiving. You got to be open to receiving and trusting. It might mean that you take a little bit of a risk, because otherwise you don't grow. Well, you can grow without the risk, but we grow more when we're uncomfortable. And then just allowing yourself to be supported and trust in that energy of trust and intention and gratitude. So thank you for sharing this episode with me. I'd love to hear what passion you want to allow to create prosperity in your life. I mean, and if we're talking financial, first of all, prosperity is going to be happiness and fulfillment, contentment. And because of that, you're going to be more well. And because of that, you're going to be happy in your relationships. And then there's the financial piece. Because of that, people want to be a part of it. You don't even have to, like, sell yourself. People want to be a part of something that feels good. And so you can just create that offering. You could just passionately, little side job, create a retreat or a circle that easily brings in an extra $5,000, and then you go on a vacation with your family. That's kind of how I started like 12 years ago. And then it just kept evolving, and now there's just multiple ways of receiving abundance through my business because it's my passion to support women through retreats, through my circles, through my coaching program. So just have fun with it. What would I do? What would you do just for fun? When you're in that energy of fun and joy, that is the energy of prosperity. And then send me a message and let me know what this inspires you to create. I'd love to just energetically support you. I love to do that because it's part of prosperity. It's like giving support, receiving support. So many of you send me kind messages that you enjoy my show, and I appreciate it. And if you're looking to dive deeper into the conversation around prosperity, we are in this moment in March, around this new moon, which is the energy of prosperity since March 2nd, astrologically. We are inviting you to navigate prosperity through a 10-week course with us. So we will drop that link in the show notes. It's a lot about revealing the origin story of money and trust and aligning to new empowering beliefs, moving through that energy in our body. So there are several different practices that we'll use, and I'm not going to share here because I don't want to spoil it, but a huge part of the work that I do is to embody. So we're going to embody wealth consciousness. We're going to understand the energetics of money and financial freedom, understand scarcity and rewrite it. So if you're interested in any of this at all, we'll drop the link in the show notes. We're doing the first group this March. It's actually going to begin on the 21st. And then from there, there'll be the opportunity to do the course on your own, but we'll do another group course in the fall. But the one this spring is going to be at a special offering for those who are just already in this energy and totally ready to receive this, to rewrite their story and create a new legacy for their life, not just for yourself, but for your family, to totally rewrite all of the things up until now. So thank you again for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful, fantastic day. I love and honor and cherish each of you, and sending you all my love and aloha. See you next week.
The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition. Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this community. I know there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and I am deeply honored that you chose to listen in and be present with me today. I love and cherish and appreciate you, and I want to invite you to join our tribe and Facebook group under jenmons.com/connect. I would also love to gift you your guide to discovering and overcoming the self-limiting beliefs standing in the way of you living in optimal health, more energy, fulfillment, and self-confidence to create an embodied, healthy, whole you. You can find this at jenmons.com/tribe. I also have one small request to help spread the love. In order for this podcast to show up in the feed of social media platforms of other like-minded people, we need reviews. So please head on over to jenmons.com jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review. You will also find other inspiring episodes on that page. So I personally read these reviews weekly and would love to give you a shout out and share your kind words with our listeners. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as jenmons or the Holistic Coach with the W, Holistic, and jenmons, JENMONS.com. Thank you so much and have an amazing day. Aloha.